Hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the 1111 Matrix Code Revealed. As always, I'm your host, Garrett King. Okay, I know it's been a month and a half, a little longer since my last video, but for very good reason. I have been doing a lot of research during this time, so I've got a lot to show you guys today and something kind of new and interesting to talk about, a new number that's been showing up for some reason. I think I know what the reason is now. But for the past month and a half, it's I don't know, it's shown up maybe 5-6 times at the most. Which I guess in a month and a half is quite a bit. I don't know. But not like, 333. I wasn't waking up, every single night at this particular time or this number that I'm about to tell you guys about. It's just, I don't know. It's just been one of those things where, I've just happened to look at the clock. It was that time. And that's happened, a couple of times. I think there was a receipt the other day that I had that had this number on it. So yeah, it's been popping up. And the number that I'm talking about is 1212. Okay. Didn't know why. But it actually feeds into what I'm going to show you today. It's bizarre how these things happen. And, I've said it 1,000 times. I'll say it 1,000 times more, I'm sure. But guys, pay attention to numbers. When there are numbers that are showing up consistently for you, pay attention, research them, see if there's meaning, see how they connect to you. I guarantee you there's a connection somewhere. Okay, you just have to find it. Which, as you're going to see, is exactly how this played out for what I'm about to show you. So yeah, 1212. I have no idea, or had no idea, why it was showing. Of course, the first time I saw it, I just looked at it and I was like, okay, it's a repeating number, 12 and 12. I recognized it, but I didn't put a whole lot of thought into it, until the next time I saw it. And again, the whole process. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, this is the second time. And then, of course, the third time and the fourth and the fifth, and I think there was like a sixth time. So it indicated to me that this was something I needed to pay attention to. It's showing up consistently. Pay attention. So I did, and then I saw how it fit into this new research. And that's what we're going to look at, and we're going to see how this connects to the last video that I did when I was showing you guys how the number of character letters in the Torah in each book, Genesis, Leviticus, Exodus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. I think I got those out of order, but how the number of character letters applied to the number pi. And we got through Genesis, Exodus, and Leviticus, and then I said, I believe that this will continue into Numbers and Deuteronomy. It does, not quite the way I thought it would, but it actually connects in a much deeper way, okay? It's crazy, folks, okay? So let's just jump into it. Stop wasting time here. So let's go ahead and open up my spreadsheet. Okay, I want you guys to pay very close attention here. So Exodus has 63,529 character letters, okay? Now, if we take the numbers 3, 3, 7, 7, 12, and 12, okay? We're going to multiply those together in that sequence. So 3 times 3 times 7 times 7 times 12 times 12 gives us 63,504, okay? Now, you're probably asking, how does that connect to this number up here? Okay, there's 25 characters off. But check this out. So when we look over at Genesis and we take 78,604. If we take each one of those numbers and add them up individually, look what happens. So 7 plus 8 plus 6 plus 4 is 25. Simply add 25 to 63,504, and we have the exact number of character letters in Exodus. Okay? Now, look right here, folks. 12 and 12. That's where I was talking about this connection, how me seeing that number and just the way this whole thing has worked this entire time, the number started repeating, so I knew I had to pay attention. There was a reason. This is the reason. Okay? It shows up in this mathematical calculation. Now, let's jump over to Numbers. The book of Numbers. The book of Numbers has 63,530 character letters. Okay? So, if we take the very same, the exact calculation that we used over on Exodus, so 3 times 3 times 7 times 7 times 12 times 12, we get 63,504. Now, if we take the numbers of Deuteronomy and do the same thing that we did with Genesis, which, let me spread this out just a little bit here. Come on, there we go. Okay. And add up each one of those numbers individually. So 5 plus 4 plus 8 plus 9 plus 2. Did I get all those? I think I did. 5 plus 4 plus 8 plus 9 plus 2. Yep. Equals 28. Now, 28 plus 63,504 is 63,532. Okay. We're 2 over what we know to be 63,530. Now, why are we 2 over? Well, this is interesting. Very interesting. So, the book of Numbers contains a total of 63,530 letters. However, most people are unaware that there are 2 identical inverted letters appearing in chapter 10. These inverted letters are a rare glyph used in classical Hebrew. They show up before verse 35 and after verse 36. The inverted letter is Nun. Okay? And these 2 additional inverted nuns, it's weird to say it that way, but these inverted letters, while technically they're not counted as part of the text, it still increases the overall number of letters from 63,530 to 63,532. Now, what are the chances of that? Now, these 2 inverted letters, they're there. They're in the written copies, the handwritten copies of the Torah, okay? And as we've talked about, every time a new copy or version of the Torah is written, it's all done by hand, and it must be exact. If they mess up one letter, they throw the whole entire thing away and start over. So these inverted nuns show up in every single copy, but nobody seems to understand why they're even there in the first place. Okay? But they're there. Now, I have an image here to show you. So this is a handwritten version of that particular section that I'm talking about, and I've circled the inverted characters. Okay? So right here, this is the start of verse 35, and it goes into verse 36, and it ends right here. So we have the same character appearing here and here. Okay? Now, there's a lot of speculation of why they're there, but no one has really zeroed in on why exactly. Okay? Just a lot of speculation. But it is interesting to note that they're being recognized by this mathematical formula. They're there for a reason. And again, it's just interesting that we can use this mathematical formula, get close to the actual value, or not value, but the number of character letters in each one of these books, Exodus and Numbers, use the exact formula, and then look at the two books on either side, Genesis and Deuteronomy, take the numbers that make up the character letters, add each one of those numbers up individually, and it finishes out the total for Exodus and Numbers. That's extraordinary. It just blows my mind. Okay. Now, it is interesting also that Leviticus, as we talked about last time, is the only book where we had to use a base 6 calculation to see the inner workings, okay? So if you remember, the number 44,790 when converted into base 6, the number was 543,210. If we look at the mirror flip of that, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? Let's just jump back over here to Leviticus real quick. Okay, so we saw that mirror reflection. And it was the mirror reflection number, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that appeared in pi. Okay, and it appeared at position 447,855. And then, of course, I talked about if we look at the last digit, 5, and simply add it to the remaining number, we get 44,790, the exact number of character letters in Leviticus. Now, this is being shown to us. This mirror reflection is being shown to us for a reason. Let's jump back over here. So let's look at this formula right here. 3 times 3 times 7 times 7 times 12 times 12. Okay? Let's look at 3, 3, 7, and 7. I want to show you guys something here. Let me open up my calculator so you guys can see the math. So 3 times 3 times 7 times 7 is 441. Okay? Folks, 441 is the mirror flip of 144, which is the value for Lord Jesus Christ in Hebrew ordinal. Okay? But what about 1212? Okay? Well, 12 times 12 is 144. The mirror flip of 40 or 441. So we're seeing mirror reflections again. Okay? And again, I think for a very obvious and yet not obvious reason. It'll become obvious here, I think, in a moment, hopefully. So 441, 144, mirror flips of one another. Okay? Which is exactly what we saw in Leviticus when we converted this to a base 6, a mirror flip. Okay, but what happens if we reduce, see how everything else is a single digit, 3, 3, 7, 7, those are all single digits. So what happens if we reduce 12 and 12 down to their base number, which would be 3, okay? We would have the sequence 3, 3, 7, 7, 3, 3. Now think about this, folks. Think about this long and hard. We know that the 1111 matrix code goes up and down by the number 37. But we've also seen this number 3773. Okay? We've seen this number because of Genesis 1:1. That verse has the value of 2701. When you add its mirror opposite of 1072, we have 3773. We also know that 37 times 73 is 2701, the value of Genesis 1:1. Also, we know that 37 is the value of Jesus in Hebrew ordinal, and 73 is the value of Christ in Hebrew ordinal. So what this actually looks like to me, let's move this down, is we have, if we look at the numbers and stop seeing the numbers, but look at them as the gematria values for the words or the names that are being applied to the numbers, or vice versa. So 37 being Jesus, 73 being Christ. We simply have Jesus Christ sandwiched in between the numbers 3 and 3. Keep in mind, folks, 3 and 3, that's 33. That's the age that Christ was when he supposedly died on the cross. Okay? So you have Jesus Christ encased within the number 33. Now, let's look at this. So if we add each one of these digits in this formula, not multiply, but simply add, we get the number 44. Now, here's something interesting. Go back and think about the video that I did. I think I called it, What is the Source of Blood? We talked about that. That was a Bible code that I found that ran straight vertically down. What is the source of blood? What is the source of blood? Now, 44 is the value in Hebrew for the word blood. Okay? Now, what happens when we take this exact same formula with the 12s being reduced down to 3, and instead of multiplying, we simply add those up, and we get 26. Okay? The value is 26. 26 is the value in Hebrew for Yahweh. Yud-He, Vav-He. Okay? Very, very interesting. All right. Now, let's move this over here. And I think we can just leave that here. Now, I can't remember. I know I was going to talk about this, but I can't remember if I actually talked about it or if I decided to wait. I am going to talk about it now. Some of you may know this. Some of you may not. It may blow some of your minds out there, while others who are aware of this will recognize this straight away. But when you take the name Yahweh, Yud-He, Vav-He, okay, or Jehovah, and you look at the Hebrew letters vertically, straight up and down, okay, it does something kind of unique. So let's look at it here, okay? So we have Yud, He, Vav, and He. Look at these letters very carefully, folks, running vertically, okay? If we start to move them closer together, it literally forms the shape of a man or just a human being or an upright vertical being, okay? We have the head, we have the shoulders and the arms, we have the spine coming down to the pelvis, and we have the legs. Okay? Very interesting. Very, very interesting indeed. Now, let's go back over here. And let's zoom this out a little bit. Okay. Let's look back here at this structure, if we want to call it that, okay? So Leviticus, as I mentioned just a moment ago, Leviticus was the only one where we had to use a base 6 calculation, okay? But when you look at this, when you look at Leviticus being in the center, and then you have Exodus and Numbers on either side, and we can use the same mathematical calculation, and then use the additional 2 books and add the numbers individually and add them to Exodus and Numbers, we get this sort of pyramidal shape, okay? So Leviticus at the top, then we have Exodus and Numbers, and then we have Genesis and Deuteronomy over here. Okay? So I've gone through and taken these numbers and I've reduced them down to their root number, okay? Which is 7, 7, 6, 1, and 1. When we add those numbers up individually, we get the number 22. And 22 is the number of Hebrew letters in the Hebrew alphabet. Okay, so interesting connection there. Now, these numbers over here, 19, which, okay, so 6 plus 3 plus 5 plus 3 plus 2, it's 19. Okay, so 19 reduced down becomes 10, and then further reduces down to 1. Okay, but when we look at the first reduction number, okay, so 25, 25, 24, 19, and 28. We add those together and we get 121. Well, 121 is the equivalent of 11 times 11. So there's that 11 connection here. Yeah, it's pretty wild. Now, let's talk about what I think this is indicating, okay? So what is the source of blood? I've done that entire video about our DNA, and in fact, it's over here. And I've talked about how this DNA and the video that Greg Braden did, where he found the code where it talks about God eternal within the body. Okay, and I discussed how they have found this fused portion in our DNA, showing that our DNA is fused with something else. For me personally, as I'm starting to look at this and break this down, I feel like what I'm or maybe just back up here a second. What I'm getting from this is that, how do I even want to say this? Okay, so the mirror reflection numbers, okay, keep that in mind. For me, this is my take on this, okay? You guys may have a different viewpoint. But it's showing mirror reflections. To me, indicating that we exist here and we have a mirror reflection someplace else. Okay? So if we think of this in terms of a simulation, we are experiencing this reality. We think we're experiencing it here, but we're experiencing it elsewhere. Okay? Think of it as you are simply more than your physical body. Okay? We are more than our physical bodies. We know that we have a soul, a spirit. We know that we can leave this body. Okay? We've heard of, people. I've actually had an out-of-body experience once, but I've had one. It shocked me so bad that I haven't literally tried to do it again. Maybe I should. I don't know. But this was years ago. I was still living at home, and I was actually trying to make it happen. I literally just envisioned myself. I was lying in bed. It was at night. And I say living at home. I mean living at home with my folks. I hadn't moved out of the house yet. But I was laying there and literally envisioning that like there was a zipper, okay, at the top of my head. And I literally was like envisioning the zipper unzipping all the way down my body and sort of my flesh suit, my meat suit, opening up and me stepping out of it. When I was envisioning that in my head, I simply went, or it felt like I went from laying there in bed to like just in a snap, I was standing in our living room in front of our fireplace. And folks, I could see it as clearly as I am looking at this computer and this camera. It was right there. Right there. Like I could just physically reach right out and touch it. And it shocked me. It shocked me so much that, a second ago I was lying in bed, I was going through this process, and the next thing I know, I'm standing in front of our fireplace. And when that shock, that overwhelming shock hit me, I jumped right back into my body and I sat straight up in bed. It was the weirdest thing. And I know for a fact I was not dreaming. It was not a dream. I wasn't dreaming that I was standing there. I mean, it was just so vivid and clear. It was incredible. But yeah, back to my point, we are more than our physical bodies. And if we are in the simulation, experiencing this through a virtual reality headset, if you will, someplace else, it still implies that we are a part of something else. We're a part of something greater. Our DNA. These are simple codes and ways for us to, I think, return to the source or realize that source exists and that we will eventually return to it after we die. It's crazy. Now, there's more that ties into that. A different sort of pattern taking place that is in the 1111 matrix code. It's been there all along, but, how many times have I said this, folks? Sometimes, shit is staring you right in the face and you just don't see it. Let me open up my other spreadsheet here. And I'm going to show you something interesting. So, looking at the original set of the 1111 matrix code numbers, okay? Going back, for those who are just kind of new to this video, these numbers were formed from taking the numbers 333 times 1111 and getting 369963. We add 1111 back to that. That generates the first 1111 matrix code number. And then we add 369963 to that number and every new number, okay? And then, of course, if we take the last four digits and add the remaining, we come back to 1111. But I was writing these numbers down the other day. I wasn't writing them down. I was typing them in a spreadsheet, and it was automatically putting the comma where it was supposed to go. And I started looking at that. First, I don't know why I didn't think of this before. But what happens when you add the numbers separated by the comma? We've done that process, but not with these numbers. We've done it with other numbers. If you've been watching my videos since the beginning, you know what I'm talking about. But we haven't done it with these numbers. What happens when we start to do that? That's what I've done. Okay, so naturally, 371, then there should be a comma here, and then 074. So let's add that split, okay? So if we take 371 plus 74, 0 does not calculate at the beginning of a number, okay? So keep that in mind. So we're going to have 371 plus 74, we get the number 445, okay? The next number, it's going to be 741 plus 37. Again, 0 doesn't calculate at the beginning of the number. So 741 plus 37, we get 778. we apply this same thing here. Now you're going to say, wait, how does this work? Okay. So we're going to take 0, 0, 0 plus 1, 1, 1. We have 1, 1, 1. We simply add the other one to it. We get 112. Okay. And then it repeats, not the way, like, it wouldn't stand out to most people when you're looking at this, okay? So when we get down to 1480963, so we're going to add 963 to 480 and then add the 1, and we get 1444, okay? And then we're going to repeat the same process. The comma, so 444 plus 1 is 445, same number we have up here. We come down here, we take 1 plus 850 plus 926, we get 1777. Do the same thing, add 777 to 1, we get 778, and so on. By doing this, the pattern repeats. 445, 778, 112, okay? And then it repeats, 445, 778, 112. It's a repeating cycle, again, over and over and over. So, my thought was, okay, what do these numbers mean? Well, there's 3 sets of numbers that are repeating, okay? So let's just simply take those 3 sets of numbers and add them together. 445 plus 778 plus 112, and we have 1335. Now, I looked all over, folks. Couldn't find much of anything to do with this particular number, other than a bunch of gematria. But I wanted to find a different connection. I felt like there had to be something different than just the gematria connections. I wanted to explore this number and how it would apply, or could it apply to any of this. So what I did was I went over to Code Finder. It's one of the Bible code programs that I use, and it will convert a number into Hebrew, okay? Because I've talked about this. Back in this time period, they didn't have a numerical system the way that we have. They used the alphabet in place of numbers as well. So would you write this number down, 1,335, if you were to write it down using the Hebrew alphabet, it would look like this right here. Okay? We would have Aleph, Shin, Lamed, and Hey. In that order. I took that, put it into Google Translate, and the translation is an illusion. An illusion. Hinting back to the idea that, again, this is a simulation. It's an illusion that we are experiencing from someplace else. That's what these mirror numbers, we've looked at this 1,000 times. We talked about this over and over, these mirror reflections. It's the representation of us. We exist here, and a mirror reflection of us exists someplace else. Again, folks, it's to me, and again, you may have a different take on this, but I believe that this is further proof that this is a simulated reality that we are experiencing from somewhere else. Now, Mike and I have talked about this, and he's said it multiple times, and I'm actually going to be recording with him this coming Sunday and showing him this exact same information. He's talked about that we are all God experiencing this reality individually. Okay? And if that's the case, think back to this information, the source of blood. Okay? And the same calculation when the numbers are reduced, going back to Yahweh, Jehovah, God, the Lord. And then it forming the symbol of a man. Now, is this indicating that we're all God experiencing this reality individually? Or does it mean that we are a source of the Creator who are experiencing this reality individually? And that our internal makeup, what makes us the soul, the spirit part, that thing that I'm calling Jesus, okay? Because again, look back at the connections, folks. Up here, 3 times 3 times 7 times 7 is 441, the mirror reflection of 144, Lord Jesus Christ. And again, the numbers 37 and 73, Jesus Christ. It's the energy source coursing through all of us. It could be the very same energy source that is simply running the simulation that we are experiencing. And again, we are more than our physical bodies. We're experiencing this reality from elsewhere. I mean, these are all hints, all clues pointing us in that direction. And they're placed here for a reason. If they weren't, then why are they here? Why were we meant to find them? You got to ask yourself those questions. Now, what still puzzles me, other than the fact of the mirror reflection part, is that Leviticus is using that base 6 conversion. And I'm starting to wonder if we need to start looking at other portions using a base 6 calculation. That's going to be part of my next research, what I'm going to start diving into, looking at some of these other numbers. Other numbers such as 3773, 2701, and looking at the base 6 conversion. Is there something with that? Because, again, it's interesting. When you look at the 5 books, it's just the book in the middle that's using the base 6 conversion. Again, sort of creating that peak of this pyramid that I'm showing you. And then everything else is on either side. Now, you could simply look at this too and flip it, okay, to its mirror opposite. So instead of Leviticus coming up to a point, it could go down to a point. And then you would have the triangle flipped and you would simply have the star of creation. It's crazy. Yeah, it's a wonder I even sleep at night, folks. The stuff going through my head. And again, it was just very interesting seeing that 1212 pop up, 5 or 6 times over the past month and a half. And, like I said, it was something I recognized, just because it was a repeating number. But when it started happening, then I knew it was something I had to pay attention to. And the simple fact that it leads into this mathematical calculation. It's crazy. So that's going to be it for this time. I want to keep this short, but I mean, there's a lot more to dig in here, folks. A lot more, and just we're gradually finding pieces and pieces and pieces. And once we start having all of these pieces, and God knows how many's left. But man, if we can start getting these, then we can start forming the bigger picture. We can start completing the puzzle and see what the end result is. We're getting glimpses, we're getting hints, and we're getting there. We're starting to build up this idea that this is an illusion. We are living within a simulation. and we are connected to source clearly here as well as over there, wherever that over there place is. Yeah. This is exciting stuff. This is the stuff that when I find these connections like that, it's just starting to drive me even more and more and more. I don't know. I find it incredibly exciting. So, okay, enough rambling. I'm going to end this here. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section. I know a lot of you have reached out to me here recently, and I owe you all replies. Just please know that I am incredibly busy. And if I don't respond to you straight away, I will eventually. I'm working as hard as I can to get to all of you. And I know that some of you have, left me comments or messages in Instagram, and I do open them up. I don't have it blocked or anything like that to where it shows, unread. It'll show to you that I read it. I've seen your comments. If I don't reply straight away, don't think that I'm ignoring you, or, that I don't value what you're saying or what you're telling me. I do. It's just many times I get the notification and I'm in the car, and I'll glance at it while I'm at the stoplight, but I don't have time to reply back because the light changes. And then, by the time I get to my destination or whatever, I've forgotten, about the message. But I will see it again. I will reply. But just bear with me. Okay. I'm doing the best I can. I'm just one person in the midst of all of this. So yeah. Okay. That's it, folks. I will see you very soon. Hopefully not as long as it has been. But sometimes it just takes a lot to dig into this research and compile everything, so that I have something compelling to show you. And I think this is very compelling here. So, yeah. Okay, that's it. Till next time, hope you all take care, and we'll talk again soon. Bye-bye.